And welcome to Toast and Coffee. And with us today we have Jeanne Walters. And Jeanne Walters has been the recipient of the Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal. And she's going to tell us all about what that Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal is all about. And this lady is volunteer extraordinaire. I don't know of any area of work or play or service that Jeanne has not been involved with in the city of Saskatoon over the last just about 94 years, I guess you are. You're just about 94 years old, and I think you've lived in Saskatoon the majority of your life. But you're going to tell us all about that and how you came to Saskatoon. You are a Saskatchewan person, and you were born in rural Saskatchewan, in a smaller town, and then you moved to Saskatoon in your later life. So you're going to tell us all about that and tell us about your volunteer experiences. So, first of all, Jeanne, would you please tell me the Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal? What is that?
Actually, the Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal was organized in 1995. It was the second Saskatchewan award given to volunteers, and Rick Folk, I remember, established the Saskatchewan Order of Merit in 1995, and of course later on we have our own another area called the Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal.
Right, and it was adopted, in the provincials, in the provinces, pardon me. Second, it's this province's second honor, and it was, it's the through the amendments to the Provincial Emblems and Honors Act, pardon me, and it's been adopted by the legislature, and further amendments to the 1997 medal declare the Volunteer Medal to be an official decoration. And when we talk about it being an official decoration, tell me a little bit about the medals that you have. I mean, I wish you could see them. I wish the people could see them. They're quite lovely. Do you want to tell us about them?
Thank you so much. Well, I have received the first Saskatchewan Order of Merit, which is one of these. I think it's the gold one there. And the other one is one I received. Very surprised today to have your Lieutenant Governor bring a service medal that she has given out to ex-service women. And so I was very surprised and honored to receive it.
Right, and when you said you've been given one for ex-service women, you of course are a veteran of World War II. And
I joined the Army towards the end. Of course, we never knew how long the war was going to last. And my ex-husband, not ex-husband, but my husband-to-be, joined up in 91. And thought we shouldn't get married because maybe something would happen to him. So I waited till 1946 for him to come back. And he came home in June, and we were married in August.
So lots of love letters in that time?
I'm sorry?
Lots of love letters during that time?
During that time, we finally started to number our letters. And I think we were in the 300s in the last few years. Wrote a letter about every second week, sometimes more. Sending parcels, of course, like everyone else did.
Okay. So your career in the military, do you think that helped you to want to become a volunteer in your later life? Because you've been a very active volunteer for many, many years.
Well, I started being a volunteer when I was young, during the Depression, doing things that people couldn't afford to do themselves. And when I came to Saskatoon, I was fortunate to take art from Ernie Lindner, who everyone in Canada knows of. And so I met a lot of people interested in art, and it was then that still in the tough times that we were doing flea markets and things, trying to raise $20, I think it was, for a week's rent to have an art show. There wasn't a gallery in Saskatoon when I came. There was no opera going on. There were many things. The symphony was going at that time. That's back in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been going to the symphony concerts for 70 years this fall, and I've been a volunteer from that time on.
Well, you know, you were
with the
also
symphony. Yeah.
sorry, you were also speaking about the arts and the Mendel
Yes.
Art Gallery.
Right.
And there was a picture of you many years ago when the Mendel Art Gallery opened,
Mhm.
and you were at the opening.
Right.
And they also had a picture of you in the Saskatoon Star Phoenix closing the doors of the Mendel because it just closed
Yes,
recently.
That's right.
You
Yes.
know, and so it had a span of a lifetime of how many years, Jeanne?
Yes, well, we actually started a Saskatoon Arts Gallery. There were many, the Saskatchewan Arts Board had been formed in, I can't remember quite what year, although I do have the first program. We had that going for a short time, and then finally Mr. Mendel came along, and of course we got a new gallery out of that.
All right. And what did you do at the gallery, Jeanne, besides everything?
Oh, well, try to raise money.
Uh-huh.
When we opened the doors, we didn't have any furniture, no dishes in the kitchen, and I volunteered in the library and was a docent, and we studied painters' works and took people on tours. And we used to have galas. Well, like most organizations, we're always looking for little extra money.
Right. And that's not all that you did, though, in terms of volunteering. You've actually also, I know, been nominated for the Celebrating Seniors Award for your contribution to volunteerism in the province of Saskatchewan. But there's other awards that you have been nominated for and have received. Can you tell us a few of them? We haven't got time for all of them,
Oh
Jeanne.
dear. Well, I have received about 20 awards, and I would say that I have quite a few from the provincial government for the centennial year and one or two other events, and but a lot of them are from different organizations I belong to. One is the Mendel, of course, for their 40th and 50th anniversary, and for volunteering as a volunteer for in our city. So let me see. Well, I've had awards from the Opera Association and Council of Women and hospital auxiliaries and goes
YWCA
on
you've been
and on.
involved with?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
many things. Many areas. Now, when you're receiving these awards or when you're given these awards, tell me, how does it feel, or are you surprised that you get this, or what do you think about all of this?
I am absolutely surprised. I think people think cross the street because they think I'm going to ask them, we need some money for this organization or that. I've had people tell me that. And, but, I mean, we all know what the situation is with volunteer organizations. And it was my privilege, and I'll tell you, I enjoyed every minute of meeting people who really wanted to help with their own organizations, whether it was diabetes or Crohn's disease or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And, again, you're talking about all these, these many, many organizations to which you belong, and you've held different offices. And I think the other thing that's commendable about you is you don't mind taking tickets or serving tea either.
Oh, I don't mind doing whatever. There's always help. I just have enjoyed every organization. You have a music festival here like we do in Saskatoon, and you have the Theatre Saskatchewan here in, I can't remember the name of the street.
Angus Street.
I have been giving a trophy to the Best Actor Award in a play in this week-long festival that you always have here in Regina, as you do in all the other big cities.
Right. And speaking of drama, I think there's something that is really special about what you have done. I remember you telling me once that that you and other people like you are responsible for taking theater into the rural areas. Do you want to tell me about that story, please?
Well, I think at the moment we have about 70 amateur theater groups in Saskatchewan, which is really, when you think of the vastness of the province, it doesn't matter whether it's just a little small town, they'll get together and form a little theater group. And of course, that is why we have had for about 60, 70 years, we've had an amateur theater festival, whether it was for a 1-day, 3, or as it is now for 7 days, sometimes even 1 day more if we have more entries that want to compete in the festival.
Well, and then there's another festival that I know that you were very instrumental in, and of course that's the Children's Festival.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
well,
and you were involved with that heavily. Do you want to tell us about the Children's Festival and its beginnings?
Well, I think it was my daughter that was really involved. Of course, I wound up helping in some area or other. And
some area or other. I'm sure you were probably the chair of the committee or something, but anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we have an opera association in Saskatoon, and we have many cultural things, and I hope that I had heard at one time that Regina was having a problem with their music festival, and you see in the little small towns the volunteers are getting scarcer, and some of them have had to fold up.
Right.
And which is a shame, because there's nowhere else for young people in the music field that can progress and and have the experience of working in an amateur position to move up.
Well, it's also, as you well know, it's also the adjudication process that they receive when they're going to these music festivals, and that means that they're growing as young musicians. And I know that your own grandson is a very accomplished musician. Okay, and we're going to have Terry on Words on Air, but with that, you also know that young people need somewhere to practice, but also somewhere where someone says you do this very well, but you must work on this. And that's what happens at these music festivals. And they have, or they did have, at the music festivals, they would get adjudicators, from many types of music and from many types of instruments, and vocal as well. And at one point there was speech arts, but those have gone by the board.
Yeah. And of course, the music festival many years ago had adjudicators from many parts of the world that would come here. We would sponsor them, and of course they were hired to participate all across Canada, because that was the only way you could afford to bring these very qualified adjudicators. So we had the pleasure of and the experienced adjudicators come, and I think that's a big help for encouragement to young musicians.
Okay, and the other thing I think as well, when you're talking about all these volunteers and people volunteering, you've seen changes in volunteerism across Saskatchewan. I know that, we talk about Saskatchewan being built on volunteerism. We talk about facilities, we talk about programs, we talk about even individuals who were built by volunteers, who helped them to grow and to develop in certain ways, who wouldn't have developed in that way if it weren't for volunteers. But have you seen a change in the type of volunteer that you have today as opposed to the type of volunteers you had yesterday?
Well, the young people of today, the children, there is so much activity now for children in their schools, and there is activities available to them even outside the schools that if they want to participate, their parents will have to afford to let them have it. But the young people of today always say, oh, I'm working and I have no time for to volunteer as well. And I suppose because their children are so involved, that is the reason a lot of parents are not volunteering. And so basically, a lot of organizations are, the hospital auxiliaries in Saskatoon have folded up because the seniors volunteering in their 80s and that aren't able to stand up for 5 hours a day doing whatever, whether they're working in the library or the maternity ward or whatever. And consequently, the hospitals now have to think about hiring more help or finding their own younger volunteers to come and help.
Right. But for you, volunteering has been a way of life, and I have to say this. I can remember you I've known you for many years, more than you and I are going to count today. But during that time, I remember you working alongside your husband in a business. Mm-hmm. I can remember you going from work and going to some committee meeting, coming back, putting on your sweater and doing your work, and working alongside your husband and promoting as much as you could within the community, always. And another thing that I do remember about you, you and your husband were way ahead of your times. I know you had Walters Cycle, which is no longer in existence, but it had begun in the early 1900s, I believe, and that was your business. But you hired individuals who were challenged in some way. Yeah. Some of them were physically challenged, some of them intellectually challenged. And you did this back in the 50s, back in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, we always tried to help disabled people. And for about 10 or 12 years, we used to have 2 or 3 disabled people working for us. And people were surprised to come in the shop and see these people. Mm-hmm. But they were qualified enough that there were things they could do, so that's what we had them work at, of course. And I know the government had given us a plaque for about 12 years saying, thank you for your help with these people, because a lot of people didn't hire them. Mm-hmm. They would think that maybe they weren't qualified enough to, but it was great. We helped.
Yet, yes.
Yeah.
And yet one of your best workers, who I remember, right, was an individual who was, I don't know what his difficulty was, but I remember him being somewhat, physically deformed.
Yeah, right.
And but he worked very, very hard and was a very good worker, and people loved him.
Yeah. No, people still ask about them. What's happened to your Ed Blanchard or the Frederick fellow? I think those were some of the last ones that we had employed.
I know we talked a lot about the arts, and we talked about even some of the women's group, and and of course the YWCA was always there, not only to help young women, but to help women who were having difficulties in their lives, and I know you helped with that. But the other, and with many organizations, it's just it's actually amazing the different types of organizations that you belong to. You're talking about the hospital, and then on the other side you're talking about the visual arts. But and you spoke quite a bit about the visual arts. But you and your husband also were very supportive of the sports industry in Saskatoon as well.
Yes.
And
Well-
tell me about that.
Well, we belonged naturally to the bicycle associations, hockey, figure skating. My husband used to go out to the little towns and try to encourage people to have figure skating lessons in, and of course we had a lot of hockey and speed skaters coming in our shop, and so we were in business for 79 years when my husband passed away, and so this young lady decided that she wasn't going to run a bicycle shop on her own, so.
Right.
That's how come we closed the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that does happen, unfortunately, to businesses. But Walters Cycle was very much a fabric of the part of the fabric of the Saskatoon community for many, many years. In fact, people will still drive by and they'll still look and say, "Oh, that's where Walters Cycle used to be," and it was a very well established business. But I know too, with not only from the business side of it, but you also provided a lot of trophies for hockey players as well as for the figure skaters, and you supported young people.
Oh yeah.
And gave them, if you like, a bit of a leg up, with what they were doing, as well as selling them their skates.
Well, we had bought and we gave a lot of trophies away, and I think I donated about 100 books to your Hall of Fame. You have a Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Well, in the center of the city. I came up to Regina and brought, I don't know how many boxes of things, trophies and books mostly. And we have skates in my house that are from the 1800s, about 1880 I think is the oldest pair that we have, and which will either go to the Hall of Fame or else to our museum, I suppose, would be the other place. Yeah.
Over the years, of course, as I said, you've been very, very involved, so everybody in Saskatoon knows you, but you know everybody in Saskatoon too.
Well,
Just about.
well, I've worked with so many people. When the Saskatoon had their 100 citizens in 1982, which I'm trying to think what year it was, our centennial year for some reason, and there were 100 citizens nominated, or many more, but of course what were chosen. And out of that 100, on that large page, I think there was only 4 people that I didn't know that I could say hello to, because I'd worked with them. It didn't matter whether it was the city parks and recreation, or the hospitals, or whatever.
Oh, come on, Jeanne, I know you. If those 4 people, you didn't know them, you'd know them by the end of the session. You'd have gone and talked to them.
Well, I like to talk to people and find out where they came from, where their parents came from, and how they got going in whatever business they are. Like, people wouldn't know that stonemasons in Sweden would have to go to college for 7 years to get their mason paper. It isn't just laying a brick.
No.
It's just like being an architect or whatever, that wasn't called a university, but
Right.
where they learned how to know what goes with what. Like, there are people that have come from the Icelandic countries that have built a lot of buildings at our university in Saskatoon. I don't know what's been done in Regina, but I remember buying a book one time about the architecture's book on all the great mansions and homes that were built here in Regina.
Okay.
And I've loaned it to an architect, and I'm still waiting to get it back. So I
So
guess
hey out there, whoever you are.
he must appreciate the book.
Oh, hey out there, whoever you are, get that book back. It belongs to Jeanne.
No.
Okay, but you're talking about being a voracious reader, which you are, but you're also a writer. And you wrote a wonderful piece, and it was about your experiences. Do you want to tell us about that? Your experiences with the military?
Oh, with the military. Well, I was working in a hardware store next to the what do they call it? Employment office
Okay.
to join the ex-service. I think it was for CWAC. I don't believe there was anything other than CWAC. So every day I went by and they would motion to me for me to come in and join. So I wrote my fellow, and he said, well, he got moved a lot because he was in the engineering department, and so he saw a lot of the actual war, and he'd say, no, I don't want you to join. I just don't want you to join. He said, it's horrible. Every place I've been, it's just a terrible thing to see. So I didn't volunteer till almost the end of the war, and so to end my service, I wound up coming to Regina. And so I remember, there was a Brigadier Trudeau who was here in charge of the Manning Depot. And so I enjoyed it because it was close to home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for being with us today, and congratulations on the Saskatchewan Volunteer Medal, as well as on your medal for your long time service with the military. And thank you so much for being with us today on
It's
Toast and Coffee.
my pleasure, and I thank you for being so kind.
There we go. We're done. Thank you very
dear.
much.
I didn't.
You did wonderfully.
No, I didn't.
You did. It's going to be
Oh.
marvelous. It's wonderful stuff.
Well, you hear people, so you guess you know.
Oh, I
You
think
it.
it's great.
Well, for me, I didn't think it was.
Oh, I thought it was
Well, I
super.
hope you did.
Yes.
If you're not happy with it, you know what you can do.
What I can do? Bring you back? Okay.
Just like I said when that Lee Ann Mercer from the protocol office, did I tell you?
No.
She phoned and she said, I'm phoning from Regina from the protocol office. And I said, what in the world who is this person? What's she phoning? And she said, I'm phoning to tell you that we've had nominations for, you want me to quit?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Tell me.
And nominations for this award. And she said, and the jury has picked you as one of the 10 finalists. I said to her, oh gosh, that's really kind. I said, there's lots of people that are deserving. Why don't you give it to them? Oh, she said, I've never had anybody's turn us down. And so
you're not going to turn them down. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm sorry I have to do this because we only have half an hour here. So we've got to, there you go.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
You go ahead. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, I can't go ahead
Thank
till
you,
I get my
Connie.
other people in here for a minute.